The Internet of Things, or IoT, is the internetworking of physical devices, buildings, household appliances which are embedded with technology that enables these objects to collect and exchange data, and also respond to their owners with a touch of button or voice technology. This innovation greatly increases the mobility and connectivity of the things around us, making transactions and logistics faster than we can imagine. But it also poses a security threat. Does the opportunity outweigh the threats of this technology? Joining us today, ladies and gentlemen, are players within the space who will be able to provide more clarity on this subject matter. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for two gentlemen on stage, Professor Arif and Ansari, Professor Data Science and Operations Department, Marshall School of Business, USC, United States, and Mr. Todd Ashton, President of Ericsson, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. I am Arif Ansari. Today, I'll be talking about Internet of Things. Is it a threat or a revolutionary opportunity? Along with my fellow presenter, Todd Ashton. So let me introduce myself. I'm a professor at Marshall School of Business at University of Southern California. My area of interest are creative analytics, big data analytics, Internet of Things. So what is my contribution to society? My first contribution to society is the viral prediction engine. It predicts which content is going to go viral before it becomes viral. The second contribution, the recent contribution, is the super relevance engine. Imagine the recommendation engines on steroids. That is a super relevance engine. It can find out what is relevant for you based upon the big data. Now, moving on to IoT. What is IoT? Anything that is connected to the internet, any device, is an IoT device. Originally, it was imagined to collect and exchange data and take simple actions. Now, the technology is evolving. There's a confluence of different technology which is happening together. Initially, it was imagined to increase the mobility and connectivity and take decisions to enable us. Now, we are moving on to the next stage. So with every new technology, you have to go back and think about it. Is it a revolutionary opportunity or a security threat? It is both. But the opportunity far exceeds the threat. So let's address the threat briefly. What is happening today? Anything that is connected to the internet can be hacked. You cannot avoid it. And all these hacks, particularly the IoT-based hacks, are garnering the headline news. Everybody's reading about it. But the first time, I don't have complete clarity on it. I have to beg your pardon. Recently, when I was coming, first time a news came to me, that is, they are able to prevent a hack, identify a hack as it was happening. That's a game changer. That's a game changer. That means the technology is evolving. They're able to identify as it was happening. A lot of times, it is much, much after it has happened. That's a great news. Now, what is the new thinking from a business point of view? The initial thinking was, let me put something on the internet, and let's figure it out. Now, as the business models are evolving, the first step is security is the first step. So you have to think about security before the benefits. That is a new thinking. Start with security in designing your Internet of Things network. The second one is anything that is unmanageable, right, should not be part of my Internet of Things. Now, how do I make it more secure? The future of IoT security. If you look at it, the securitization of Internet of Things is following exactly the path of the computers. In computers, people started putting VPNs. They started putting HTTPS. That means secure connections. They're putting multiple layers of security. These are traditional thinkings. The new thinkings are coming in, which is based upon analytics, and the big brain, we're going to talk about it, which is anomaly detection and anomaly learning engines, which are able to learn before it happens. Even if somebody starts probing it, I can identify it and prevent it. The next one is called trust networks. We are borrowing the ideas from blockchain, non-hackable ledger kind of concepts, and they're building what is called trust networks, preventing them from communicating with networks that they're not supposed to communicate. And they're also putting what is called the edge, knowledgeable edge. So these devices connect to the edge and get information so that they can improve the securitization. Now, let's go to the opportunity. All these internet IoT things are connected to the cloud. By the last count, there were at least 450 IoT platforms, and they're growing rapidly all over the world. What is happening, the game changer is, these clouds are getting an analytical brain. And this analytical brain is what it is going to bring this revolutionary monetization opportunity. I will discuss it as we go along. So my take on this is, what is the future of IoT? The IoT is going to become KIoT. I would like to pronounce the KIoT as a kite. It's going to take off and fly. So let's understand, it's changing the economy. Let's go to the olden economy. The olden day economy is called the carbon-based economy. Black oil, crude oil, it was refined and was converted into gold. What is the new economy, guys? This new economy is called I can economy. You have to belong to this I can economy. It's a word play. Basically, I can means information, knowledge, analytics, network. You have to belong to this I can economy. Doesn't matter which part of the business you are. Why? From an IoT perspective, this Internet of Things, devices, everything is getting connected, not only to the cloud, the new brain in the cloud. This new brain in the cloud is going beyond the computing power. It is giving you analytical power. It is giving you the ability to take decisions from a business point of view. So what the C-level guys want is agile decision making. We are going to enable them through prescriptive analytics. Let's understand the new analytical brain. What is it? All people talk about big data. In the big data, there are two types of data. One is called the unstructured data. The unstructured data is creating the new things, what is called knowledge graph. Imagine millions of use cases put together and combined into concepts. That is a knowledge graph. In the previous session, you might have heard about people talking about cognitive computing. All those things are linked to this. So people can gain knowledge from the knowledge graph. On the other side, we are creating what is called deep learning networks. They can analyze videos on the fly, images on the fly, and help you to identify what is there in the unstructured data. Together with these two unstructured data, you can combine the traditional analytical models using the structured data. What is structured data, guys? Anything you can put in Excel sheet or a spreadsheet is structured data. And we as humans have built many business models. Now, all these things are coming together and is creating what is called the new brain. And all these things are enabled through APIs. If you put together, you're creating a game-changer new brain, which is much bigger than our brains. It's a collective human power put together. So let me give you what we can do with this new brain. Historically, if you look at it, we had 2 Ds and 2 Ps. The first one is called descriptive and diagnostic analytics. This was enabling business 1.0. The descriptive analytics basically tells you what has happened. And the diagnostic analytics tells you why it has happened. You can go and investigate, You can go and investigate. So the descriptive and diagnostic is basically insight and hindsight. What is the future? Predictive analytics. With new technologies and new data, we are able to predict a lot more and lot frequently of more value. In addition to this, what the business people want is prescriptive analytics. A C-level, a C-suite guy, doesn't want to be told what to do. At the same time, his time is decreasing and decreasing. So what he wants today is, help me, give me choices, give me those choices along with the value proposition. So you can tell them, hey, these are the things you're going to take, and this is what is going to happen. And they will use their own knowledge, wisdom, to pick one of them and take an action. So that is what's happening in terms of prescriptive analytics. So what is the future of IoT? The future of IoT, as I told you, is going to become KIoT, Knowledgeable Internet of Things. What is the purpose, guys? These IoTs are going to interact with the new brain. It's already happening. And it's going to enable the digital human beings, whether we like it or not. Every one of us has become a digital human being. We are tethered to digital devices. And more enterprises are becoming what is called agile, near real-time enterprises. And we are enabling them also. So use cases. There are so many use cases. My colleague will talk more about the use cases. So I'm going to give you the opportunity. As you can see, IoT-based things can enable financial services. There's a $2 trillion opportunity. There are multiple use cases. I'm going to discuss 3 use cases. Some of them are familiar, some of them are not familiar, some of them are going to happen in the future. Right? And why these things are happening? Because the business models are evolving. Once upon a time, we were product-focused. We sold products. Today, we are not selling products. A lot of companies like Cisco, once upon a time, they used to sell products. They moved from selling products to what? Selling services. Today, if I want to start a new company, all I have to do is go to Amazon or some other website and get what? Or everything you want on a monthly service fee. Now, it is further changing into what is called usage. Because of the technology, people are telling you, sometimes you use less, sometimes you use more. Rather than paying a service fee, you can willing to pay what? Usage fee. That is a game changer. It is happening in GE. Right? Let's go to the next one. The first use case. Here's the use case of a retail grocery. In America alone, $14 billion was wasted because of fresh produce was not properly managed. What can go wrong? The temperature setting. Right? If it gets spoiled, you have to throw it away. So initially, what they put is, they put a sensor. And then they put the sensor and connected to the internet. So it acted as an alert. So the manager can come and take decisions. What is happening today is a lot more deeper. With today's technology, the same sensors can take a picture. And it can analyze and find out whether the door is simply open because somebody, a customer came and opened it and left it. Or is it broken? By taking the pictures and communicating just like what humans do, they can also do and find out if it's really broken. If it's really broken, then it goes and links up with the own business process. That's a game changer. It links up with the own business process and find out, hey, who are the people who can service this particular thing? You may have 1 people or 3 people. Then it evaluates and provides a prescriptive analytics back to the manager. It says, okay, these are 3 people. This is a timeline that can fix it. This is the cost. I'm giving it to you. Now you take a decision. That's a dramatic game changer in terms of the use cases. Here's the second use case, which is a very interesting use case. Under Armour. I want to present these use cases because it's applicable to companies in this region. If you can use the imagination, you can create IoT-based business models. Under Armour started as an apparel maker. Now, using the IoT, they completely changed the business model into network fitness. To do that, they spent a lot of money. They bought a lot of apps company. They bought a lot of these devices. And now they're combining everything and creating what is called network fitness. Let's take a look at this one. They're providing a complete network fitness solution. As they provide this, they're able to sell all their products. They're selling their wrist bands. They're selling the dresses. Every one of them is getting more and more embedded with sensors, which are connected to the internet, and which is connected to your personal data together it is making recommendations for you. It is giving newer and newer suggestions. That is a new business model. So using this logic, a lot of small businesses can come up with similar idea. Am I selling a product? Or can I use this product to convert into a platform and make more money, more what is called value liberation? The next one is very important. This is the future of entertainment. What is happening in the future of entertainment? Let's take a look at it. The future of entertainment is changing. The new economy, according to me, is called the eyeball, eye candy economy. When the internet came, it was all eyeballs. How many eyeballs are connected to the internet? Today, it is how many eyeballs are watching eye candies, which is neurotic content, which enables. So what is happening here in this particular living room is people are able to see what content you're watching. They can tell you whether you like the content or not based upon your wristband. They can find out based upon your interaction what is your feedback you're giving to the content. All these things are very important. For whom? Let's take a look at this one. The moment you connect with Facebook, they can get this information. They can do a sentiment analysis. They can find out all the different things about the content. And they can make recommendations on the fly, whether you're watching as an individual, whether you're watching as a family, right? Whether you're hungry or not, and make you suggestions to buy pizza, etc. This is the future. So, this internet-based things are enabling everybody. Who are they enabling? First, the content creators. The content creators create content and think, oh, this is my baby. Everybody will like it. But the real world scenario is not. So by analyzing it, using the internet-based devices, you can give an immediate feedback. Hey, this content is working or this content is not working. And the OTT platforms, they want to identify what is the new type of content which people want to like it. At the end of the day, everybody has what is called physical limitations. I cannot promote 100 things to you. All I can promote is what? Top 3. Help me and dynamically what? Reorder it. The telcos. The telcos' biggest problem today is selling data. You can sell all the data in the world, but unless people consume it, you don't make any money. So how do you make them consume? That's why all the telcos are going and buying the content creating companies. You can see the merger between AT&T and many of the movie networks and all those things. So the telcos want to find out, hey, which content is resonating with the millennials? And by the way, the millennials are a hard nut to crack because the taste changes every day. For me, I eat the same thing. When I take my son, it's a nightmare. He wants to try different restaurants, even in different restaurants, different recipes every time. That's a game changer. For the advertisers, here's an interesting fact. Once upon a time, the advertisers made one content per year. And all those guys are making one content per year, all dying down. Because nobody wants to watch the content a second time. That is my generation. The new generation want advertisement as fun. So it's a game changer. So people are saying, I cannot create one content per year as advertising content. I have to create hundreds of content. The leaders in this particular space are Red Bull, the energy drink. What they do is they buy all the sports content and stick in their Red Bull ad somewhere. So they're doing advertising at the same time providing what? Fun. So this is a great opportunity for a country like Malaysia, Indonesia, and other countries. Using this internet-based feedback you get, you can enable your local brands. This is a game changer. Once upon a time, you cannot compete with the big companies. They got all the eyeballs. Now, if you're smart enough, and if you can create viral content, which is relevant, which is resonating with the people, you can promote your content. It's going to change what is called the level playing field. The last one is the subscribers. The subscribers are saying, I don't want to watch the same thing again and again. Give me interesting stuff. They want a la carte. Nobody wants to stick with just what? One network, one type of shows. Right? And all these things, guys, you know what I mean? In terms of the entertainment space, the revolution is coming because we are giving people more and more data. Whether we like it or not, we are feeding the data. And the data is getting to the big brain. And this big brain has been democratized. Anybody can buy this information back. If the question is, how am I going to use it in my company and become a kite and fly high? Thank you. I'll stop here.
Well, hello everyone. Let's see if I can make this work. Yes. Okay, my name's Todd. Come from a Swedish company. Sweden is not a very big country, but we have a few big ideas. And our company has existed for about 142 years. We have a few key principles that are important to us, which are around respect, professionalism, and perseverance, and things like transparency, inclusiveness are key values that we follow. And we do some technology projects as well. We launched the world's very first mobile network in Saudi Arabia in 1981. Our first project in Malaysia was actually to connect Peninsular Malaysia with Borneo. And we've done a few other technologies. We believe a lot in R&D, so we've created a few technologies. I don't know if you've ever swiped on your phone to do something. That's a type of patent that Ericsson has developed, and maybe you've used Bluetooth before. That's also an Ericsson thing. And our business is to build networks, but I think what motivates a lot of us at Ericsson is our mission is to innovate technology for good. And that's something, if I talk to my employees that have been teaching me in Bangladesh and Malaysia, they feel, in a broad sense, maybe aligns a lot with some concepts that exist in Islam around halal and toyib, about how you're trying to make a difference and do things in the right way. So it's something that for all of us working at Ericsson, we find very motivating to try to follow this purpose. Now, to get into the Internet of Things, one key enabler is to get broadband everywhere. And broadband is not only an enabler, but it's also, I would say, a financial or economic imperative for countries, because for every 1,000 broadband connections, 80 new jobs are created. And there's lots of studies that show for every 1% increase in broadband connections, there's a 2.3% increase in new business registrations. I mean, it has a positive impact on the economy. And I think what's important to know is that, I mean, most people, particularly in this part of the world, I mean, their way to touch the internet is going to be on the mobile. It might be on a tablet or on a phone or something like that. So it's an important fundamental for enabling what we're discussing today. If we assess the economy a little bit, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I won't talk about, we spoke a little bit about finance, a really good session earlier on that one, actually, Nether Hall and oil and gas, but just take the middle one. Most estimates say that that market is something like, in 2015, about $2 trillion. And it's growing at around 8 to 10% CAGR per year, so it's going to have doubled by 2020 or 2021. So it's just by itself a massive industry to address. And if we take that major opportunity and then look at the IoT market, Internet of Things, it's growing like crazy as well. So there's some estimates by 2022, you would see something like $7 trillion worth of revenue related to the Internet of Things. So I think the key for my presentation is to try to figure out what's the intersection between the opportunity that exists in the economies of the world that are predominantly Muslim with what's happening with the Internet of Things. But, of course, if everything can be connected, you can imagine many different disruptions to industries, and that's really what's driving the IoT economy. You can connect everything from a fish, so you can imagine that you would have commercial fisheries, and you'd want to quickly make sure that there's not some contamination in the water. You can use sensors to do that, send data over the mobile broadband to the cloud and find out. You can connect cars, I think we've heard about that, even connect water. So there's lots of opportunity. In fact, I think our imagination is the limitation. But also, you know, I don't know what else to say except, I guess, if people want, they can do bad things, exactly. Right? Bad people can do bad things. So, I mean, there you can, we had a few examples where someone had a connected home and then they got called up and the guy took over the home and could turn off the TV and turn off the lights and do things like that. So you could imagine a number of ways to, use the technology in the wrong way. And when we do consumer studies, the number one biggest concern for consumers when it comes to security and IoT is actually the privacy, maintain their privacy. So that is a big concern, and I think, Prof, you highlighted a few of the things that need to be done to prevent the security risk. I think even with this risk, our feeling is that the opportunity far outweighs the threat.
Exactly.
And I think to talk about the opportunity, I'm going to go into a few potential use cases. We might find them a little bit crazy. Some of them are more consumer and some are more enterprise, let's say B2B type use cases, but to discuss. So today, it's already becoming possible where you can use a few emerging technologies on the very latest smartphones to actually not just take a picture of your food, but start to find out the composition of the food. And you can, so it's not about manually keying in, it's actually working out if we take a steak, how old is the steak, how long has it been aged, what's the protein content, et cetera. So these technologies are coming. So that's one aspect of those of us who want to eat clean or also try to be certain maybe that the food has been processed in a halal way. But that's only part of the story is what you can do from a consumer on the plate in terms of keeping track of things. It's really about the end-to-end chain. So what you also want to know is how were the animals living on the farm where they created. And to do that, then you have to understand something. You need some technologies to help manage that distribution channel. So you need to have maybe RFID on the cows that can track how they were living in the field, to the slaughter, to the shipping, to the eventually distribution, to the store, and to when it ended up on your plate. And these technologies are coming. So I mean, we really see that, call it connected food or whatever, but we see these type of end-to-end use cases where you can really see from the farm to the table, ultimately using your device, what if you're eating what you were told. So we see this, and this is a big economic vertical. So we see this as a big opportunity. Another one, interesting, something different, call it the connected pilgrim. These are just ideas. So what is this? So in the technology space, and I won't bore you too much with that, but with the Internet of Things, there are a lot of ancillary technologies. And there's a few technologies in mobile coming out. One's called narrowband IoT, so radio capability. And there's something else called CAT-M, which is also more related to devices or radio capability. These technologies are addressing battery life. So how long does your, it's hard to make it through the day without charging your phone, right? Battery life is a bit of an issue. So for sensors that maybe are not transmitting that much data, but might be remotely used or not be able to be chargeable so often, they need to last a lot longer. So these technologies are enabling battery lifetimes of like 10 years. Okay, so imagine then, if you're Muslim, you're going to go to Mecca for your Hajj, and there's a lot of people there. You could imagine having a bracelet with a CAT-M device or an NB-IoT sensor that can keep track of your vital signs, keep track of your location, help you schedule your day, etc. These are the types of devices it could be if it was Malaysia, you could distribute it via Tabung Haji for everyone that would go, so you could keep track. And of course, there's so many people that go on the Hajj. I mean, I think safety and security is always a little bit of a concern with so many people. So you could imagine this type of thing, and it's actually starting to happen. I mean, we see Zain in Saudi Arabia starting to deploy this type of solution. So you could easily imagine other Muslim countries, Bangladesh, one of the mobile operators actually distributing together with the government this type of capability. So if we think more a different space, public safety. So here is an opportunity more about how consumers can feel more safe. So, I mean, just to take one of the things, I mean, 47% of people in the countries we studied, we look at the Emirates, we did some studies in Turkey and the UK, 47% said they're interested in being able to have medical drones. So one of the opportunities that's starting to exist in the evolving technology world is the ability to integrate through technology things like the fire and the police and rapid response units. And then using things like drones, cameras, and connecting them to help secure public spaces, react quickly to emergencies, et cetera, and secure a more rapid response. And we see that there's a lot of interest in, from a consumer perspective, in this side. But interestingly, you also have a lot of concern. Because of course, if you start integrating and making the let's say, public security very intelligent, there's also a flip side. I mean, there is a chance for people to abuse that and really, let's say, monitor their citizens. So it's, of course, it's a plus minus, but we still see, looking at the opportunity to protect safety for people in many countries, this is a great potential use case. The next one is more related to sports. So, I mean, Ericsson does something with Chelsea and a few other football teams, but here's about, if we take it bigger than just sports, venues, so connecting venues. A venue could be anything. It could be anything from, I don't know, a grocery store, or a mall, or anything, places where people congregate. This is about really enriching the experience for people. So you could imagine maybe sitting in your seat, and when your favorite player gets fouled, you can feel the seat shake. Or leveraging artificial intelligence and virtual reality, you can have the goggles on and actually see exactly what Leo Messi's seeing when he's running down to the field and how he's playing. So these type of technologies are also coming because it's enabling sensors that might be connected to the human body, sending data over the mobile broadband, the internet, to the cloud, and then bringing that back down to you. So again, and I mean, there's a lot of interest from consumers in this area. So there's 4. I think I have 2 more, maybe. Next one, which is actually a project that Ericsson did here in Malaysia, is we actually taught mangroves how to talk. So think of this more broadly as an agricultural use case. So mangroves, for those of you who live in coastal environments, will know that they're very important to the ecosystem, because without mangroves, it doesn't allow the small mud crabs to grow, and then the fish like the mud crabs, and it's very important for preventing flooding. But what we did here actually was put sensors with the mangroves and let them tell us what's the pH level in the water, what's the soil salinity, what's the temperature. We have a few cameras to make sure the monkeys don't come and pick the leaves off after we plant the mangroves through time lapse. And that data is also loaded up over the internet into the cloud and then studied by researchers. So if we take another example of how that could apply in Malaysia, you can imagine using sensors to keep track of the peat content in the oil palm plantations, and keep track of the temperature of the soil and help trigger an alarm if there's going to be a fire or something like that, just as an example. So those are a few examples, and I think just to finish off, I mean, all of these examples are part of something that I think, from going back to our Swedish roots, something that many Swedish companies are driving, and I mean, it's what we call the formation of the industrial internet. So we see things that are becoming possible that we're testing, for example, with ABB, robots that can work remotely to perform surgery. We're doing a number of things in mining with companies like Boliden, ABB as well, to protect people from very high-risk areas of mining and use machines for that. We have cases for manufacturing, transportation. I think it's something, when we talk about innovation, we talked about it earlier in the financial sector, we also see this in general in the industrial internet. And this is something that our company will continue to drive. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Very much, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'd like to open the floor for some question and answer session to ask our 2 handsome gentlemen on stage. Silakan. Any questions, sir? Anything regarding the Internet of Things, technology, a threat to security or a revolutionary opportunity?
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm Alia Saleh from PNB. I think both of you spoke a lot about the opportunity of IoT, but can you explain more on the security side?
Do you want to start? Or, yeah.
Sorry. Okay, for the security, you know what I mean? In the first stage, when the Internet of Things were put there, right, it was done as a simple device to collect and exchange information and to take simple actions. Now, because it's becoming complex and people are figuring out a way to use these devices to create what? Disturbance. For example, one of the common things in the computers is called denial of service attacks. Today, right, I can do what is called denial of sleep attack. If I hack into your home, right, I can prevent you from sleeping. keep on the lights up and down, on and off like that, So that is what's happening. So once upon a time, we just put things inside. Now we are thinking back and saying what? Wait a minute, let's do the other way around. Anything that is going to be called Internet of Things in the future, the first step is what? Security. Design the security first, and then think about if this device is not manageable or securable, don't put it on the internet, right? And then the path of security is taking the same path as the computers. If you look at the computers, once upon a time, we didn't have any virus cleanup, devices. We are now putting virus detectors and all those things. Now we had HTTP, which HTTP with the S, which is a secure connection. Now we are creating VPN. Doesn't matter what you do. At the end of the day, the security is only as good as the weakest link. And top of that, if your insider wants to attack you, nobody can do anything to it. So we are adding multiple layers, As I told you, the new technologies are coming, which is called the anomaly detection. Anything that is anomaly, we can detect it. The second thing is people are borrowing the ideas from blockchain, right? The blockchain is considered to be, not to be hacked kind of ledger. So people are creating what is called trust networks. So your Internet of Things will only talk to certain networks, not other networks. If somebody tries to connect to it, it will not connect. But once again, you have to understand, it's a trade-off. The more security you put, you're slowing down the system, and you're slowing down what? The value realization. Yes. Todd.
No, I think absolutely. So I think we should be clear. I mean, the opportunity, I believe, far outweighs the threat. But the threat is real, and I'll give an example. I mean, imagine, and this is happening in many countries, what we see is let's say the electricity grids are becoming more and more connected. And there's lots of reasons for that. That's because you can self-produce electricity and sell back into the grid, or you have new metering technologies that are much more accurate. It can help you manage the peaks of electricity. There's lots of reasons to make the grid connected. But if it's not secure, it's a very dangerous thing, because if you wanted to invade a country and you could hack the grid, you could turn off all the power and make the, So I mean, it's security cannot be taken lightly. I think this is absolutely an issue for, both the public and the private interests. Industry, government, for sure. The players in those industries, to make sure that as we implement the technology into more mission-critical parts of our society, that it has to be very, very safe and secure.
Thank you very much. That was a fascinating presentation. Unfortunately, I missed the beginning, so I don't know if you covered this already. I thought I'd ask in any case 2 questions. Number one is, what are the examples with this interface between blockchain technology and IoT? The projects that are actually happening right now that are most advanced, if you could just say a couple of words on that, or are we really a long way away? And then the second thing is, just from a regulatory perspective, what are the implications and the impediments from creating this glorious world that we can all imagine, that we can describe, but sometimes feel so far away?
Maybe I can take the second question first, and maybe then go into the blockchain.
Okay. The blockchain, the blockchain is a very difficult concept to explain, right? So one of the things is an immutable ledger kind of concept. So that's what they're creating. What they're creating is, okay, let me give you a little bit background on it. Recently, I was in a ULI conference. ULI is called Urban Land Institute Conference in the US, where the real estate companies were coming and talking about all those things. That is the time people are taking the blockchain concept, not as a Bitcoin, but how to use to create secure transactions. So some of the people which I know were the very early stages are thinking about how to create the same type of thing. For example, it's like a trust network, right? So nobody can talk, right, to you unless, the trust has been established layer after layer. But that's also danger. If you keep on preventing, your value realization also goes down.
I was just asking, are there specific examples that I could go and research afterwards? That's what I was asking for. Specific project names that I could look into. I
cannot answer, because these are startup companies, some of them share ideas with me. I can just talk at the very high level, not anything deeper than that. Thank you, sir.
So, and I think, how far away are we? We're both very close and very far in a way. So what do I mean by that? Every case I showed is at least partially implemented and commercialized because the capability exists. I mean, for example, if we take the food example, just to use that one, I mean, we have done projects where we've connected all the air-conditioned containers on the large shipping, for the large shipping companies to allow them to manage their insurance costs if the air conditioning stops working. That type of logistics management you could bring into the food industry. So in a way, no problem. The challenge, there's a commercial challenge and there's a regulatory challenge, at least these two. I mean, one is the devices have to be at the right price point, right? So sensors have to be something that don't cost very much, they have to last a long time and so on. So that's one key barrier, but that will go away because these standards are global for these technologies. Every country is participating from the US to China to wherever, so it will drive the volumes and drive the prices down. The other is a regulatory challenge. So if I said at the beginning, the foundation for all this is broadband. And I mean, to be a regulator is getting tougher and tougher because in the old days it used to be just regulation for the mobile companies to give spectrum because you need spectrum to do all this. Now you're doing spectrum for everything from maybe managing the origin of cows on a farm to the electricity grid. So a regulator has to have that end-to-end perspective, and then it can't be too expensive to get the spectrum. So I think that whole making spectrum available, making it affordable for the operators at the same time, and other industries at the same time, requiring a certain level, a service level for what you get. I mean, these are things that are very complicated and definitely slow down the adoption.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, everyone. My name is Armin, and I have a question for both of you gentlemen. Mr. Todd, coming from a large corporation, and also Professor Arif, coming from an academic background, I would like to hear what are the opportunities with or within Internet of Things for the small businesses or even single entrepreneurs, especially from the rural areas. Thank you.
I mean, where to start? I mean, let me just give a concrete example if we go into real stuff. So that project that connected mangroves. When we came up with the idea, it was in conjunction with Ericsson's 50-year celebration in Malaysia, and we were trying to come up with something concrete to do that was like real. So we came up with the idea that we should plant mangroves in a place called Sabak Bernam. It's in the northern part of Selangor in Malaysia. And it was only afterwards we came up with the idea that maybe we should connect them and see what they have, how it's going. And then we were trying to find somewhere that producing sensors. I mean, then we found a local company that had been dabbling a little bit in sensors. There are 3 guys there at that point called Lumewa. And I mean, Shamray and his team, I mean, they built sensors based on commercial models and have been working now for the past 2 years to try to drive down the cost by adopting new technologies. So I think that's like one little small example related to agriculture where there's lots of opportunity. There's no barrier to entry from the perspective that you don't have to be from Silicon Valley or anything that you can do in Malaysia. I think, if you look at all the segments that IoT touches, anything from fishing, so imagine you're doing commercial fishing, so you're growing sea bass, let's say. One of the worst things that can happen is the water gets contaminated. It might take a few days to find out, in which case all the fish are ruined. I mean, you can imagine use cases putting sensors in that water and doing the same thing. So I think there's so many opportunities to use the technology, and I think the economic opportunities to become more productive and you become more competitive, right? So I think that's really the way to look at it, and they don't have to be for big businesses.
Yeah, from my point of view, it's a question of imagination. Talking about rural, you know what I mean? Today, we have so much information, right? And what we can do is we can pass on for the labor. If the government or, a semi-government organization or someone who's entrepreneurial can collect the information, right, from the companies which are working on different projects, and they can pass on this information to how many workers we need, right? And then that information can be quickly passed on to the daily workers who earn a daily, thing. So it's a question of imagination. It's a question of, either the government investing or some entrepreneurs doing it, and, we can do this. So the example I gave you, which is happening as of now, because in America, $14 billion is wasted because of waste produce. Either the door is not closed, the door is not working properly. So somebody, recently, presented how he can change because he was an insider in a food company. So he understood, if I can combine the external knowledge with the business process, that's a game changer. That's what is called business 2.0. So the companies can change can save $14 billion. That's what he's pitching. There are lots and lots of ideas, all the way from managing things, even Uber Eats. You know, it's not catching up today, you know what I mean? Uber Eats. Think about this one in a rural area. You know, if this concept of catching up, you know what I mean, like Uber Eats catches up, you can find out which restaurant has extra, you know what I mean, food. You can pass on the information and find out, you know what I mean? I can sell it rather than getting wasted. Or I know one company which is doing in America, which is collecting all the restaurants' leftover foods, you know, all through internet, and they're giving it to the homeless. Imagination is the limit.
Hello. May I ask? Hello.
We'll have one.
Hi. I'm Abdul Rahman. Here.
There you go. Yes, sorry.
I have one question. You're talking about Internet of Things.
Yeah.
There's a few technology going on which is running around now, which is one is LoRa,
Yep.
the other one is NB-IoT, and the other one is Sigfox. And the latest I heard is about Zigbee is coming into picture also. So which direction is it going? Is it going towards NB-IoT or towards Sigfox or towards LoRa or towards Zigbee?
It's a good question.
He's talking about
It's different types, access types for
Platforms.
yeah, on the radio interface. So I can maybe comment a little bit. So I think if we look, first of all, I mean, without getting too much of a technology battle, I mean, if we look at mobile internet today, if we say broadly, I mean, of course, I mean, the two main technologies for that are LTE 4G and Wi-Fi. There have been a few other technologies like WiMAX haven't worked out very well. What's fundamental is today there are about 7 billion consumer connections, and we think somehow there's going to be more than 25 billion in the next 5 years. So having a global standard is very important. So NB-IoT is the thing that's standardized globally for within the standards body. So for sure, that will be one of the main technologies. Now, the question would be for the other ones that you mentioned, I mean, if they can complement, because of course they have some advantages that might be able to complement the main one. But I think when it comes to driving the cost down, ensuring that there's devices and sensors available that are actually affordable for normal people, for if you want to talk about inclusiveness for applications for rural, it's probably going to be that mobile track, which is NB-IoT and CAT-DEM and these things. That would be my guess.
All right, we'll have
but
one
it doesn't
last
mean the others
question.
aren't relevant. It just means, yeah.
I'm Azlan from Johor. Previously, I have been together with National Blue Ocean Strategy, and our job is the Rural Transformation Center scope. Previously, I've engaged in having the rural people should have that access to this so-called internet, Internet of Things. And then what bothers me is more because of the digital divide. The access of the technology, especially on a mobile phone, is quite hard for them to gain, to purchase this so-called of mobile internet and so on. So previous work together with DG, we try to increase the technology access to these rural people. But in the end, because of a certain cost in deploying the project directly to the rural people, make that project halt. Now, the access of the technology is very important for rural people. Because the application, I think, because the value of IoT can give to the rural people is very important. So I would like to know if there's a possibility that we can give more access through technology to the rural people with a certain degree of, I think, more scalable projects. That's it. Thank you.
It's an extremely relevant question. If we go back to, I mean, at least, maybe I didn't elaborate, but I mean the concept of inclusiveness and how you make sure that everyone can participate. I think my answer is a little bit like this, without getting, I hope, in too much trouble. But the reason I was saying that broadband isn't just fiber is because most people will touch broadband on mobile. So my first comment would be that governments need to have national broadband policies that don't just address fiber. It also needs to look at mobile. Because otherwise, if you're, I don't know, in Cebu, maybe it's going to be a long time if you're outer Cebu until you actually get fiber to the home, right? So I think one thing is that it needs to include mobile. The next thing is to really look at the end-to-end chain, and that's why I was talking a little bit about thinking long term about how broadband connections grow the economy, and then maybe the spectrum shouldn't be so expensive. I mean, it'd be easy in your country to be frustrated with your mobile provider because you think the service is not good enough, but it is very expensive for them to run the service because it costs a lot of money to have the license and pay for the spectrum. So just that aspect is very expensive. The way things like the towers can be taxed is also expensive. Then of course, I mean, the technology that companies like Ericsson produce also costs money, right? So I really think it takes a holistic approach. I think Malaysia does a lot of good things to try to promote the connectivity. But of course, a lot more can be done because the reality is there's only 1 billion fiber connections in the world. There's 7 billion mobile connections. I mean, there's such a big opportunity to make broadband really extend on mobile, and I think there's a lot more to do. But the cost to serve is going down, so I'm quite optimistic about what's possible.
And also, you know what I mean, the interesting thing is sometimes, you know, unintended consequences which can bring a lot of value. A simple example, you know what I mean, the peer-to-peer networks in Africa and a lot of the, you know what I mean, third world countries completely eliminated the cost of putting ATM machines. Right? People didn't even realize that, you know what I mean? By doing that, same thing with the, you know, Internet of Things, you know. Maybe all you have to give is them a band. If they have enough connectivity, you know, it'll reduce the visit to the primary healthcare. The governments can take, you know, save hell a lot of money by giving them, you know what I mean, and being proactive, prescriptive, you know what I mean, telling them, right, and making them appointments so that they get, you know what I mean, cost savings. You cannot put millions of doctors on the rural places, right? But having this Internet of Things with the focus of what? Improving the healthcare, you can dramatically save money. You know, it's a trade-off. It's a question of imagination and a policy which has come together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor. And my apologies, we are running out of time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the masterclass for today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for our speakers for today, Professor Arif Ansari and Mr. Todd Ashton. We'd like to invite both our speakers for a group photo on stage.
Thank you.
We should stand over, I don't know, here maybe. There you go.
And ladies and gentlemen, for those who wish to ask further questions, please do meet them in person, and you can get their Facebook or email. You can contact them.
Sayyid. Where is Sayyid?
So ladies and gentlemen, we want to again say thank you so much. We are really grateful, full of appreciation for all of the support, for all of you being with us today. Give a big round of applause for yourself for being with us today for the masterclass sessions. And we hope to see you tonight at the lively Mocha Fest Soundscape concert, which will be happening at 8 p.m. We have a lot of international artists and also local artists from all over the world, from Kuching, Sarawak, yang pergi jauh. And they will be with us tonight. So be there tonight, 8 o'clock. See you there. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Sekian, terima kasih.